Well, absolutely. And this is actually a very worrying thing because in this Thucydides trap, America is behaving exactly as the good general, Greek general of all those millennia ago was predicting.
Every day that goes by, the U.S. economy looks more and more like it did during other times of huge financial stress, like the great financial crisis of 2008, the 1980s, in times of high inflation and interest rates. Maybe even in the late 1920s, before the Great Depression, the U.S. has one of the highest debt-to-GDP ratios in the world. The economy is expected to get even worse in the coming years as the U.S. takes on even more debt and debt-related costs. A lot of people think that the U.S. economy will end up like Japan's, which has a debt-to-GDP ratio of 260% and is about to have a national debt crunch. Alasdair Macleod, a well-known precious metals analyst and head of research at Goldmoney, is adamant that the only way to save the global financial system from a huge crash in which many people will lose everything. He said this in a recent interview with Capital Cam. Alasdair shows Russian President Vladimir Putin how he can end the West's lies and control of the rest of the world by making an easy choice that will drop the value of the dollar right away. Putin would be pushing for Russia and its partners to go back to the gold standard with this choice. These include the 25 nations that have officially applied to join the alliance, as well as the other 10 BRICS plus nations and members of other alliances, such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, and the Belt Road Initiative. Alasdair also says that if such a large group of countries switch to a gold standard, the dollar will quickly lose its place as the world's reserve currency, and the price of gold will skyrocket. Here are some clips from Alasdair Macleod's talk with Capital K. But first, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on alerts. Click the bell to see more movies like this. Thanks for watching and have fun.
America is losing its power. This is notable particularly in the way in which the dollar is being used less internationally. China and Russia, between them, are determined to do away with the dollar as much as possible. And so they're accepting each other's currencies. In the planning stage, they hope to introduce their own currency for trade settlement. That will be discussed at the next BRICS big meeting, which is in October in Russia. Russia, incidentally, is the chair of BRICS and has been driving, sort of monetary policy thought for BRICS. China will be the next chair of BRICS. So you can see that they've got a very firm hold on the way BRICS is developing and how trade settlement is going to occur. So all these factors seem to me to be at the worst possible time for America, when it's just entering a debt trap, driving the dollar out of use internationally, which basically means it will be sold down in the markets. We're already seeing this. I mean, when you look at what the Central Bank of China is doing, I keep on telling people they're not buying gold, they're selling dollars. The emphasis is important to understand. They are selling dollars rather than buying gold. And that's a process which I see continuing. Well, absolutely. And this is actually a very worrying thing because in this Thucydides trap, America is behaving exactly as the good general, Greek general of all those millennia ago was predicting. They are just refusing to let go. And if anything, they are likely to accelerate the move towards war. And I think Russia and China, thank goodness, are being pretty patient about how they deal with this. So this is not good, and it is quite possible that we are heading towards all-out war. I mean, when I see, France, for example, and also in this country now talking about it more openly, putting troops on the ground in the Ukraine. This is a provocation which really brings NATO directly into conflict with Russia. And it's difficult to see how you can have that without actually a formal declaration of war. So this situation is actually getting a lot worse, and it's getting a lot more tense. I think that there is a way out on this one. and it's a dangerous one, and that is for Russia to destroy the dollar, which it can do. Russia could go on a gold standard tomorrow and expose that fiat currency for what it is, and that would be the end of the dollar, and quite quickly too. I mean, you can imagine the legion, if you like, of BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization members, their affiliates and associates. We're looking at 60% of the world's population, or nations representing 60% of the world's population, turning against the dollar in one swift move. It will be the end of the dollar. It will be the end of every dependent currency, fiat currency, unless they are prepared to embrace the gold standard. I really don't see that America is in a position to do that, either intellectually or practically.
So why haven't they done that already, though? Why hasn't Russia retaliated by adopting a gold standard? Or is it something in their toolbox that they're waiting to employ should it ever get to that point, should hostilities ever take it there?
It's in their toolbox. I mean, there are senior Russians who do understand the benefits of putting the currency on a gold standard. I mean, I'll give you an example as to why it really would be very, very good for Russia. At the moment, the central bank's deposit rate is 16%. And that's what's needed to stabilize the ruble. If the ruble went on to a gold standard, then practically for Russian banks, for example, Chinese banks, other banks, it would make sense for them to buy gold in the West, where the yield is 2%, sell it to the Central Bank of Russia in return for rubles, which linked to gold is a gold substitute, and they're picking up 14% on the way. What's not to like?
Yeah.
That is actually the way in which you manage a gold standard. You don't use interest rates to try and manage the economy. You use interest rates to manage your gold reserves. And that was learned the hard way in the wake of the 1844 Bank Charter Act in the UK, because it failed something like 3 times before they actually realized that you don't use interest rates to try and manage an economic outcome or to manage the banking system. What you do is use it to exclusively manage your gold reserves, and then you don't have a problem. So on that basis, it's very easy for Russia to stabilize her situation. And just think of the benefits. Interest rates would then decline. Russians in business would find that they can, if you like, their business calculations become a lot more profitable. It means that they will be able to cut the cost of their output and all the rest of it. I mean, it would be like another industrial revolution. I mean, it would be fantastic for Russia. And it would actually get her away from having to rely on the export of commodities in order to have a surplus on A, her balance of trade, and B, on her budget. I mean, the situation in Russia is that taxes, if you look at personal income tax, it's around about 13%. The higher rate is 15%. I mean, these are levels we dream of. Corporation tax is 25%, admittedly. The government debt to GDP is, and this is despite the war and all the financing of the battles against Ukraine, debt to GDP is only 21 or 22%. So you can see that actually Russia is in an amazing situation, and she can easily go onto a gold standard. And she has been pushing for this. She wanted to get gold, a gold-backed currency onto the agenda at the last BRICS meeting, but it was turned down by China and India. India does not want to upset the West. India is not in a position, really, to consider a gold standard because she's been in denial about gold for God knows how long. She's tried to stop her citizens from buying it. It's only recently that she started increasing her gold reserves once she realized the geopolitical situation she was in. As far as China is concerned, it's clear that China does not want to rock the boat. China does not want to poke the American eagle, as it were, by overtly being responsible or partly responsible for the collapse of the dollar. So while China has made contingency plans against that event, She's going to await developments, I think, before she takes a move to protect her own currency. And when she does, it's almost certain that she will also put her currency onto a gold standard.
Here's
So,
another. Yeah, yeah. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, I was just
So,
saying. I'll let you finish your thought. I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, no, that's not at all. I mean, also, you see, you've got a sort of the happy band of brothers, if you like, going into that lot. I mean, you've got Saudis who I understand the 50-year agreement to accept only dollars in payment for oil, that's now come to an end as of this week. So the petrodollar, sorry, the petro yuan is really going to start building. I see that continuing. In spite of Iran's terrible currency, I think the Iranians would be quite keen to stabilize her position with gold. And this is true of many other countries within the Shanghai Cooperation and BRICS ambit. It's fascinating because the problem that countries like Brazil have is that the valuation of her currency is not so much dependent on things like money supply and all this sort of stuff and the government finances. Though obviously it comes into it, but it's just purely the markets look down on these emerging market currencies. And as far as they're concerned, as far as the markets are concerned, they're trash, whether they are trash or not. So there is absolutely no benefit to a major economy like Brazil's of having a fiat currency. They would be far better crystallizing the value of their currency and putting it on an international standard, which is effectively what gold does.
So you mentioned the petrodollars agreement coming to expiration. You don't think they're going to renew it? And if that's the case, why isn't this news all over the place? I mean, you would think this would be headline news, but I rarely see any mention or talk about it whatsoever.
That's right. There's very little talk about it. It's not being renewed. It's as simple as that. Now, I've seen it from various sources that it's not being renewed. And this would actually fit in very, very clearly with Saudi Arabia's geopolitical drift away from the West, away from being an ally of America. I mean, she hasn't supplied oil to America for 2 decades, 3 decades now. All her supplies, I mean, her major customer is, of course, China, and they've survived. They've signed trade agreements with China, whereby China will pay for a lot of the oil through inward capital investment into various projects, which Mohammed bin Salman has been promoting.
Financial experts and economists work at UBS, a well-known global financial services company, have said that people should buy gold instead of selling it when the price drops. A note from a financial services company says that the recent drop in gold prices was caused by strong U.S. payroll and earnings data, along with an increase in the 10-year U.S. data and the U.S. dollar index. The team also said that the economy is still weak and that the Federal Reserve will probably announce 2 rate cuts before the end of the year. With all of these problems, along with ongoing geopolitical risks and the upcoming U.S. election, UBS suggests keeping about 5% gold in a USD balanced portfolio to deal with uncertainty. Feel free to leave a comment below with your ideas on Alasdair Macleod's predictions for the US dollar, gold, and the world economy. Also, don't forget to hit the like button. To see more movies, follow the channel and turn on the bell icon. If you watched, thanks and see you next time.